be talking about Indonesian food for my cultural identity speech. Why Indonesian food, you ask? Well, I'm half Indonesian and half American, so I thought I would kind of explain to the audience why I like certain foods like this, like those weird hairy fruit and the bowl of rice there. So okay, the first thing I want to kind of say is the cultural identity is usually what influences food. Cultural identity is influenced by a variety of things such as geographical location, cultural influences, and economical influences. Hopefully, throughout this speech, I'll be able to explain the significance of those three influences on Indonesian food and people and their people as a whole. And hopefully, I'll be able to explain that the cultural identity of different cultures leads to uh, leads to unique values sought by leads to unique values possessed by each culture that may interact with one another and create new things such as new technologies or new ideas that may help us in right now or in the future. All right, so the first paragraph, I want to talk about geographical influences. So that is here. As you can see, Indonesia is a giant island archipelago that is located on the equator. What this also means is they have lots of rainforest, as you see here. So their diet would mostly consist of probably fish and probably a lot of the spices on there. Those spices were sought after by a lot of people, such as traders, pirates, and adventurers. Um, this would also mean that since they were in the Southeast Asia, they had close proximity to China, so they adopted a lot of things from China, such as their noodle making and their stir fry techniques, and their staple food, such as which is rice. Their stir fry techniques is one of the reasons why that bowl of rice was actually there, because they one of the most popular dishes of Indonesian food is nasi goreng, which is fried rice. Moving on to the next one is cultural influences. And basically, the map on the right shows the European colonization and or basically Dutch colonization, or not Dutch colonization. It basically shows the religious affiliation of the different islands. So during the 1400s AD, we had there was Muslims that came from the Middle East and came to Indonesia to convert a lot of the population. This also meant that there was a lot of guidelines to food in that area, so they would have to be, for example, when you have a religion, they're going to have certain guidelines for food, such as like for the Muslim religion, it would be like no pork, or the food would be prepared a certain way. Um, for the Europeans that also came later, they would want to see control of the spice trade. Um, to the Europeans, these islands were known as the Spice Islands, and the Spice Islands they wanted to seek control of. Uh, I want to say the Portuguese came first, and then you had the British, and then the Spanish. You had all of them come, but none of them really exerted a lot of influence until the Dutch came and ruled them as a colony for about 300 years. Um, During this time, the Dutch have had influenced a lot of Indonesians a lot. So, for example, at least on the food front, a lot of the Dutch pastries that were made would a lot of the recipes and a lot of techniques used over there would also be used in a lot of the Indonesian pastries and desserts that you would still see even today. Moving on, I want to say for the economic influences, I did mention that the Dutch ruled Indonesia for about 300 years. But during this time, during the 300 years, Indonesian people were considered as second class citizens in their own country because, colonization, Europe, all that stuff. So, what this meant, it was probably they were not as well off as Dutch people, and that would also mean that their diet would probably be limited to cheap meats. So, this would probably go back to like using chicken and fish. However, the funny part is actually spices never actually left Indonesian palates. So even today, through all that colonization, a lot of Indonesian food is one of the richest and arguably like the most spice intensive like food, involving many different spices, many different ingredients. Um, This also meant that a lot of the food that the Indonesians got were from traditional markets, and that is still true today, even in today's global economy, where, according to FutureLearn.com, 80% of traditional retail owns most of food retail. However, that might change later on because the middle class is growing with the rapid economic growth of 4.5 to 6% of the Indonesian country. Um, with the globalization of economy also increases more Western access, so this means a lot of more Western stores and stuff like that. Um, so I want to conclude. Cultural identity boils down to basically the above influences for the most part. Changes to from what I've shown from the previous influences, I hope I've shown that there are parallels to food as to with the people. So if you could follow the food, you can follow the people, I guess. And the importance is not only biological for food but also sociological. Um, by having a diverse society, we can have new foods and new technology to solve problems today and in the future. Thank you.